Hey guys, so let's suppose your full-time job is not keeping up with the AI race. Well, these are the top 3 AIs you should consider using for coding and why. And truly the most obvious mention is Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is dominating. But one problem is that it is not really available commercially. You either have to use it via the chat in Google AI Studio, but you can also use it for free and quite a bit through third-party sites like OpenRouter and Requestly. Now, as far as I tested, their limits are somewhat lenient, but they are not infinite and they certainly cannot handle an extremely heavy workload. And we must also realize that the thinking models are not necessarily the most used for coding, even if they are the smartest. And the reason being is that they need time to think. So you don't necessarily want to wait for a minute or 2 minutes every time you want AI to do something. And that is why we see on OpenRouter, the most popular models are actually Claude 3.7 Sonnet and Gemini 2 Flash. Of course, it takes time for the market to adjust, but these are non-thinking models. So we can see that Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and this is probably the best example, costs the same as Claude 3.7, but it is far less popular. Even though we see that Claude 3.7 and Claude 3.5 is pretty much the same coding-wise. Now, sure, we can point out that on OpenRouter, they are not necessarily using it for coding it solely, but it does show that even if the price is the same, people are kind of choosing speed. But also, Claude 3.7 is pretty pricey. So sure, Gemini 2.5 Pro is smart. It is the smartest code out there, but does it make it the best? I mean, it certainly is the best if you're getting stuck, but otherwise, the best choice would be, most likely, Gemini, DeepSeek V3, the new version, which is neck and neck with other AIs that actually think. And based on examples, it's also better at handling UIs. And if we go to OpenRouter, we can see that, yeah, we have a 3.7 Sonnet, Gemini 2 Flash, still Llama, and then we have Gemini 2.5 Pro and the new DeepSeek V3. Now, the interesting part here is that DeepSeek V3 is kind of a better Sonnet for coding. So whether you want the thinking model, then you probably would just pick Gemini 2.5 Pro, or you just want to move fast, then DeepSeek V3 would be your choice. And of course, for non-coding general use, then Gemini 2 Flash could be a decent choice. Probably should be the default choice in most cases. And based on my tests, I was using the DeepSeek V3, a free version, on OpenRouter, and after using it for a whole day, I could just keep using it. So from what I can tell, this is limitless. At least for the personal coding use that I was using it for. If you try to hook it up to an API, almost certainly you're going to find its limitation. But if you just want to code with it, it's almost certainly going to be fine. And almost certainly that's pretty much it. And that's so interesting too, because we got the best version for free. And we got, what would be thinking, best thinking, and best non-thinking. That's also for free. And almost nothing else really makes sense. But arguably, there is a third very interesting choice, and that would be QVQ32B, which you can also use for free on OpenRouter. But the most interesting part here is that it's a 32 billion open source model. So if you wish, you can self-host it. So if you're paranoid about third-party sites, then you can just get a high-end consumer GPU, and that's it. But realistically, that would be still kind of slow. But the most interesting part for us would be the price. That even if it's not free, then we are dealing with 0.12 in and 0.18 out, which is like about half the price of even Gemini 2 Flash. So even if we counted with like 0.2, then Claude would be 75 times more expensive. And even DeepSeek V3 is only 0.27 in and 1.1 out. Of course, you have to consider your time too, but suppose the free models are somehow not available, then I'm just showing that the paid models are fairly accessible. And QVQ32B is probably the best choice for an API at this price. unless you really need faster replies or don't much care about intelligence. But if you want to move faster while coding, then DeepSeek V3, the new version, is pretty much just the upgrade for the old non-thinking Claudes. It's kind of silly to call Claude 3.7 not thinking because it came out like a month ago. But that is the world we live in. And even if you paid for it, it would cost over 13 times less, even if you use it during the non-discounted period. So that's it. If you just want to spam Gemini 2.5 Pro, I certainly can't fault you. But I think it's definitely useful to have a DeepSeek V3 on the side, or possibly as a main, depending on what you're doing. Arguably, you should just use a non-thinking model until you get stuck, at which point you should, or could, use a thinking model to potentially help you progress. And third consideration would be QVQ32B, which I was using rather eagerly before Gemini 2.5 came in. And much like DeepSeek V3, if you use the free version on OpenRouter, you can most likely just use it all day. And suppose you wanted AIs for APIs, my recommendation would be either QVQ32B, if intelligence and price is the main benchmark, or as an alternative, you can have Gemini 2 Flash if speed and context window matters more. So that's it.